In this video, I'll be reviewing all the NFL games for week 1, giving my predictions against the moneyline odds. Last year, I won over $8,000 on NFL bets, so I decided this year I'd record my picks. All right, so the first game of the NFL season is the Cowboys at the Super Bowl champion Eagles. This one should be a no-brainer. Eagles are going to win this game pretty easily. Looks like it's a night game. I do have this listed as a best bet. Just because the Eagles defense is so dominant, obviously their offense is unstoppable. The Cowboys have a new head coach. I don't think that's going to bode super well for them. Plus the fact that they just lost Micah Parsons is not going to help. If we look at the breakdown of the roster, the Cowboys did add George Pickens in the offseason. I think he's going to help their offense quite a bit. Solid offensive line. Running back is a question mark. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, players that haven't really made it on other teams. A lot of people say that Jaden Blue is going to be pretty good. That's yet to be seen. Let's look at their defense. All right, so on defense, they did add Kenny Clark. Still Dante Fowler. Linebackers, not super standout. Trayvon Diggs, still there. Deron Bland did just sign that new contract, so that should help. Secondary, decent. Their defense is decent. Problem is that they're playing a great Eagles team. Eagles didn't lose anybody on offense. So they still have a really, really strong offense, led by Saquon mainly. Receivers are still solid. And then really their defense is what, their offense was great in the playoffs, don't get me wrong, but their defense shut everybody down, pretty much going into the playoffs and through the playoffs. They have a really solid defensive line, really good at rushing the passer. You can't really run on them either. They have such big players. I think Jalen Carter is probably the most underrated defensive player and maybe just player in general in the entire NFL. I think he should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. He's amazing, and I'm not even an Eagles fan. Our linebacker, obviously, they have the All-Pro Zach Bond, and then Jeremiah Trotter should be stepping up a second-year player there, and then Jahad Campbell was there, I believe, first-round draft pick. Should make a big impact. Secondary is just ridiculous. Everybody knows they have Cooper DeJean. Quinyon Mitchell are unstoppable. But even their third corner, Dory Jackson, is a really, really solid player. And then at safety, they have good safety play. And then Bakuba is obviously another one of their high draft picks. Should have a big impact on their team. So all in all, like I mentioned, I do have this game listed as a best bet. I see the Eagles winning this game by more than a touchdown. So if you do like to bet on the spread, feel free to go that way. All right, next up we have Chiefs at Chargers. This is going to be a Friday night game. I do have this listed as a best bet. I'm going to be going with the Chiefs on this one. The odds are actually pretty good if you select the Chiefs, minus 168. Not bad money at all right there for what I think should be a pretty, I don't want to say easy win, but guaranteed win in regards to them. The Chargers, don't get me wrong, should be a really solid team this year. And they're going to be really competitive, especially with this being a home game for them. I just think that the Chiefs don't come off that humiliating Super Bowl loss without a lot of firepower and energy. There's a lot of talk this offseason about Patrick Mahomes and the offense really focusing on being more explosive, really putting more instead of just squeaking out wins like they did last year. Really actually being a dominant offense like they once were with Tyreek Hill. And I definitely think they'll have the weapons to do that. So let's take a look at the rosters here. Starting with the Chiefs, I don't love how there's all these random blanks and they have everything kind of broken up here, but just kind of looking at this, Rashee Rice, we know he's going to be suspended for the first 6 games. So you can't count on him when he comes back. I think that offense is going to be pretty hard to stop. But even in the meantime, Hollywood Brown, I think, is a solid player. Came on at the end of last year after the injury, did pretty well. Xavier Worthy, a lot of people think will take a step forward. We'll see. I don't necessarily know if I see that in him besides a deep threat, but him as a deep threat and as a screen catcher is good enough to make a huge impact. Juju is another player that is definitely on the decline, but when you need a catch, he will make it. He'll be there. I think our offensive line remains solid as it has been for years. It's an Andy Reid staple. Travis Kelce has admitted in the offseason that over the past 2 years, he's focused on a lot of things outside of football, which is why his production has dropped. But he didn't and say, but I'm going to refocus on football. And he kind of just stuck with, it is what it is, deal with it. A lot of people think this is his final year. If that's the case, he's going to go out with a Super Bowl win. At least that will be his plan. I think Mahomes knows how big of an impact he has on the offense, so that's their plan. Pacheco being healthy this year is going to be a huge deal. Have him on my fantasy team. I think he will be a solid, not a top running back, but a solid running back as he always is. So you look at their defense. So on defense, they still have a lot of the same, players that have made an impact for them over the years. Defensive line is still solid. Still have three really good linebackers, you could say. I saw that Trent McDuffie they're not going to be able to get the deal done, which I think is crazy because he has 2 years left on his deal anyways. So why are we even talking about it? But should be solid at the corners. That's their plan. And then their safeties are always good enough, never great. Their defense should be okay. I think their defense will be okay. Looking at the Chargers, I want to give a lot of respect to their offense. I love that they brought Keenan Allen back. I think he's going to be he has been a great player. I think he still is a great player. A lot of people think he's kind of past his prime. And if he is, he's just barely past his prime, in my opinion. A lot of people took Glad McConkey really high in fantasy. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. However, he is a good player and makes big plays. So he's kind of the man in regards to that. Quentin Johnson, still don't love that he's extremely up or down. In my opinion, he's a liability in regards to his lack of consistency. I don't love that. I don't love their tight ends. A lot of backup guys that haven't really done much. I think Najee helps. They're running a scheme, especially with Harbaugh there. And then a lot of people took Omar Hampton high in the fantasy drafts as well. I think he should be definitely a solid running back. And then Justin Herbert, as we know, is great, but has never had the postseason success to be regarded as a top quarterback, I guess you could say. So will their team be good? Yes, it will be good. Will they be able to beat the Chiefs? I don't see it. The Chiefs have always had their number. I think the Chiefs I think Harbaugh's a great coach, but I think Andy Reid is better at putting together a plan. I think our defense is fine. Still have Derwin James. Beyond that, Khalil Mack kind of going out. I don't think they have any standouts on defense, so I think their team will be fine. I just don't see a win this first week. Again, the odds are pretty good, regardless of who you pick. If you do think the Chargers are going to fall off the upset, decent money, not as great as a typical upset, but the Chiefs, I think, are really to play here. All right, Steelers at Jets. So this one for the Steelers, I don't want to say it should be an easy win, but what I do want to say is if they don't get this win, they've got a scary season ahead for many, many reasons. One, revenge game for Aaron Rodgers. He should definitely get the win here. A lot of people think maybe this is a revenge game for Justin Fields. I don't see that. He got the opportunity, and he was good, and he was decent, but not great. And that's why they went with Russ. He can run the ball, obviously, well. He's a good fantasy quarterback. He's actually great at the deep ball, in my opinion. He had a great connection there with George Pickens. I think that will continue on with Garrett Wilson. It's just everything in between that. I don't necessarily love his, mid-range throwing, his accuracy, being a dependable, consistent quarterback from down to down. I don't necessarily see. I do like his running back situation. Outside of Garrett Wilson, I don't love his receiver situation. As an offense, I think the Jets will be fine. I don't think they'll be enough to really compete against the best teams. With that said, I'm not saying the Steelers are one of the best teams. Steelers, with the amount of talent that they have, should easily get this win by at least a touchdown. But knowing the Steelers, they always play down to their competition. So realistically, they're probably going to win by like 3 or 4. Like they always do, even though they should beat a team. Much worse than this, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers has the revenge against the Jets. He's got Jalen Warren, who just signed that 2-year extension. Caleb Johnson, there was a lot of hype about him being drafted. Didn't play great in the preseason, so we'll see if he redeems himself in the regular season. I love the signing of DK. I don't love that they don't have a second receiver, so they're just going to double team, triple team DK. He's good enough to still have good production. I did take him on my fantasy team. Having Freiermuth and Johnny Smith on the field at the same time, I think will help. I like Arthur Smith's scheme. We'll see if he gets along with Aaron Rodgers. The reports out of camp is that they get along to this point. So we'll see. As far as the Jets defense, I believe that they lost Reed. So outside of Sauce, I don't know what major pieces they have in that one defensive lineman that they have. The Steelers defense, I think, is going to be the story of this game, and it better be the story of this game and the majority of the season, besides when they play the best teams. I thought the Steelers defense was good last year. I think it better be great this year after who they added, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, a huge addition in regards to just the Steelers. Everyone else is a great player, but helping the Steelers defense out with Joey Porter Jr. Didn't love losing Minkah Fitzpatrick. But he really he's kind of gone away from his all-pro ways, at one interception in the last 2 years. I think Juan Thornhill and other additions will help the defense. Really solid linebackers as always, really solid defensive line as always. Now, the Steelers defense should shut down the Jets offense. They should, and they better. If they don't, again, should be a long season for the Steelers. But again, this is one of my best bets. If you like the Steelers in this one, pretty decent odds. You should be able to pretty much make an even return on your money. And then especially when you start to stack some games like this in a parlay, you can make pretty decent money. So I've got the Steelers in this one. I think that the Bengals really, really need to start off strong. I said they're going to put everything they have into this week one. I'm going to go with them. But Browns could be a good plan this one too. You'll double your money at plus 188 odds. So up to you. All right, the Bucks at Falcons. So just disclaimer here, messed up on the Bucks odds there for the money line. It should be minus 134, not plus 134. Either way, still decent return on your money. And the Bucks are actually who I'm going with here. Falcons could easily win this game. So if you like the upset, again, it's a similar return. So regardless of who you pick, you're going to get the same amount of money back pretty much. But I like the Bucks for a couple different reasons here. Let's take a look at the rosters. So still have Mike Evans. I still think he's a top tier receiver. Chris Godwin will come back. Had a great season last year. I think he'll be pretty good this year. Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. They say going into the draft last year that he was the most mature player of all players. I think that goes a long way at a position like receiver. I think he's going to be an incredible receiver. I think he makes our offense much, much better. And that is including the fact that they already had an incredible receiving core. Kate Otten, decent tight end. Bucky Irving, a lot of people took him really high in fantasy. I do think that the hype is justified. He's great running back. And then even Baker had a really great season last year. Super underrated, pretty good offensive line here as well. But I think Baker is a much better quarterback than people give him credit for, especially because of maybe his past and some other drama there. I think that's going to be the difference in the game is the Bucs offense. I just think they have too much firepower. I think the Falcons have a great offense too. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with this Bucs offense. As far as defense, solid, nothing special. Antoine Winfield Jr. is kind of their leader. I think Tyke Smith will step forward this year for sure. Yaya Diaby, great player. Levante David, I can't believe he's still playing. I remember drafting back when I did a fantasy league that you actually chose defensive players. I think I had him on my team 10, 12, maybe more than that years ago. Still great linebacker. Incredible that he does what he does. But again, I don't know if the defense of the Bucs should be a huge factor in this game. Just because I really believe in Michael Penix Jr. I think the Falcons will be better this year than they were last year. I don't love their receiving core. I think Drake London's overrated. Sorry to anybody that's a Falcons fan. Mooney's good, not great. Ray-Ray McCloud, he did better than I would have expected for them last year, but he's nothing special. Kyle Pitts, everybody's mixed on him. I'm take it or leave it. I don't really care for him. Decent offensive line, I guess you could say. I think this will be a good offense. I just don't think that they can keep up with the Bucs. Let's see who they have on defense. Leonard Floyd, that's a decent signing there. AJ Terrell Jr., he's good. Jesse Bates, super solid. Jordan Fuller, okay. So I like their safeties, the nickels, decent. So their defense, I think, will be decent. But they're not going to be able to compete in this game. I'm sorry to say it for anybody that's a Falcons fan. Could they upset the Bucs? Sure. The Bucs, especially led by Baker, sometimes can overlook teams. And it is in Atlanta, but I'm going to go with the Bucs on this one. All right, Dolphins at Colts. The odds on here are pretty much even. Anytime that the odds are close to 100, this game is, or in a game like this, will pretty much be a pick'em game. I am going to go with the Dolphins, who are a slight underdog in this one. And I think that just mainly has to do with the fact that the game is in Indianapolis. A couple of reasons I'm going to go with the Dolphins here. Let's take a look at the rosters. Really, it's just their offense. Having Tua healthy, fingers crossed. A-Chain as the full-time running back. Tyreek Hill, he really dropped in fantasy this year, but I think he'll still be a solid receiver. Waddle and Washington are good. Darren Waller, question mark, could be great. Who knows? Offensive line, not a standout. Offensive line, Ingold is a solid fullback. But this is what's going to be the difference here is the Dolphins offense, in my opinion. Let's take a look at the Colts defense and see how they stack up. All right, Pace solid, Buckner solid. Okay, so a solid defensive line, I would say. Sorry, Franklin is good. It's a decent. The linebackers, they've got Ward a corner. Okay. Beyond that, Xavier Howard. Okay. Their defense is not going to be able to stop this offense. It's too explosive. It's a little bit older than 2 years ago when they were really, really explosive, but I don't see this defense keeping up. And then not only that, but I don't see this offense keeping up. Not that the Dolphins defense is great. Let's take a look real quick. Okay, Chop Robinson, that's a good player. Chubb, all right, great pass rusher. So that's scary for the Colts offense right there. Jalen Phillips, Rasul Douglas, okay, decent. Micah Fitzpatrick, yep, forgot he's there. He'll make a difference. So even this defense versus their offense, I think favors the Dolphins defense for sure. And Daniel Jones is good, not great. There's a reason he beat out Anthony Richardson, who's an athletic freak. But eventually I could see Riley Leonard supplanting him and Richardson being a free agent. Receivers are good, not great. Downs, Pierce, and Pittman, same guys that they've had for a while. Jonathan Taylor is a good running back. I don't think he's a great running back anymore. I think he has moments of greatness, but I don't think he's consistently great. Tyler Warren, goodness, was one of the best college tight ends, and there's been a lot of great ones, but I think he's another one that's going to transition well. I like Tyler Warren better than anyone on their entire offense. I think he's going to be one of the great tight ends in this league. Offensive line looks okay, not as good as it once was, back in the day when Quentin Nelson was younger. They've got Gonclaves there, but I really just think that Daniel Jones is going to keep this team kind of what they've been over the last several years, competitive, good enough to beat bad teams, not good enough to beat great teams, might have a couple sneaky wins. Could they upset the Dolphins? Sure. I don't see it in this one, so I'm going to go Dolphins. All right, Bengals at Browns. I'm going with the Bengals on this one. I do have this listed as a best bet. Do I think the Browns could win this game? Yeah, I definitely think they're good enough to beat the Bengals. It is in Cleveland. Really, I'm listing this as a best bet because of the last several seasons that the Bengals have had. The last, I think, 3 seasons, they've started off really, really slow, come on hot at the end of the year, and then barely missed the playoffs. And I think at this point, their head coach is on the hot seat, honestly. So they got to come out strong. I think that seeing them play starters in the preseason was a little bit shocking, but it shows that they're taking this year, especially the start of it, a lot more serious than they have in the past. And then they want to start off on the right foot, especially against a team like the Browns that they should beat. But that's not to say the Browns can't win this game. Let's take a look at the rosters real quick. So everybody knows the Bengal offense. It's been the same forever. Chase Burrow and Higgins are going to lead the way, especially with their massive, massive contracts that take up pretty much the entire team. I think their offensive line is good. They've got a lot of big name players there. And then Chase Brown was really high in fantasy. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think he's a good running back. I saw some stat that like after he became the starter, he was like one of the best running backs in fantasy, and good for him. I guess that makes sense when you have a prolific passing offense, but individually, he's good enough to get the job done. That's my opinion. As far as the defense, Hendrickson finally got that deal. Another big deal to everybody. Kind of looking at the rest of their team here. Cam Taylor, Brett, okay, DJ Turner, Stone, Jordan Bauer, they still have, okay. So their defense will be fine. Nothing special. Like it's been the last several years, definitely not that Super Bowl year when their defense was really, really solid. Had a lot of good, solid, young talent there at the time. Offensively, I do like the Browns, probably more than most people. They have a great offensive line, as they always do. And Njoku, two hit or miss for me. I love Harold Fanning Jr. I think he's going to be one of the great tight ends in this league. He was great at Bowling Green, and I know it was Bowling Green, but even in the preseason, he was solid. He's a big dude. He can make plays. Very, very athletic for his size. Joe Flacco in the starting job, no surprise there. I think he'll be as good as he was the last time he was with the Browns, especially getting him into the playoffs, doing a serviceable job. He can beat a lot of teams, even good teams. I don't think he could beat a team like the Chiefs, but he can beat good teams. He'll be very competitive with them, which is why they could definitely upset the Bengals in this game. Ford will be replaced by Dylan Sampson. He's he's a great running back. Receivers are outside of Judy. And so that's kind of, and then let's look at the defense quick. Myles Garrett, I like that they added Tron Shorinka, and Garrett got that big contract, which kind of prompted the whole pass rushing contracts this offseason. Okay, what else they have? Swissing here, okay. Devin Bush, all right. Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward, Del Pitt. Okay, so a great secondary, especially the corners are really, really solid. I think Newsome got a new deal. So defense should be pretty good. Browns have had a pretty, well, I guess last year it underperformed, but the year before that, I think they were number one offense or defense in the NFL. So they'll be a good team. They'll be able to compete with good teams. Definitely. I just think that the Bengals really, really need to start off strong. And so they're going to put everything they have into this week one. I'm going to go with them. But Browns could be a good play on this one too. You'll double your money at plus 188 odds. So up to you. All right. So Cardinals at Saints. I'm going with the Cardinals on this one. Is going to be in New Orleans. I don't think that the Cardinals are going to be super special team this year, but they do have talent, so I definitely think they can compete. They've always been pretty good with Kyler Murray, but I'm sure Cardinal fans want to see them take that next step. As far as the Saints, let's look at the rosters first, because I don't know about the Saints' near-term future. So we look at the Cardinals. As we mentioned, Kyler he's solid. James Conner feels like he's been there forever, but he's always been real solid. Marvin Harrison Jr., I guess you could say, had a disappointing season compared to what people expected from him, so I expect him to have a big second year. For sure, took him in a lot of my fantasy leagues. Besides that, and then Trey McBride. Obviously, Trey McBride is a beast, so that should only continue. Offense is pretty formidable. Defensively, let's see what we have. Calais Campbell, wow, can't believe he's still around. Sweat, Wilson Jr., Max Nalt, Malov Johnson, Buda Baker. Okay, so their defense is okay, nothing special, but definitely good enough to win this game. Going against the Saints offense that really just has Olave, pretty much. Kamara, I don't know how he's still doing it, but he is. Spencer Rattler, I don't think they're going to be able to win many games with him, unfortunately. Even with the backup, I just don't see it. And old Brandon Cooks, Juwan Johnson is hit or miss. He can be pretty good. This team could maybe win a few games. I don't see them being over 500 this year, honestly. Defensively, still Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, they're still pretty solid. And then now they have Cloyd McKittrick and then Justin Reed. So they're okay. And then Warner at linebacker as well. They're okay, but they're not going to have a big season, unfortunately. This should definitely be a Cardinals win. All right, Raiders at Patriots. I'm actually leaning Raiders on this one with the upset. Odds plus 124 to minus 146. So either way, you pretty much make your money back, regardless of who you choose. It is at New Orleans, it is in New England. 1 o'clock game. I do love Rabel, so I think that'll help the Patriots a lot this year. Will it pay off in the first game? Discipline-wise, I'm sure. I don't know if they'll be complete enough of a team in their first game. Now, that said, that the Raiders have Pete Carroll, who's also a new head coach. But I just feel like, well, let's look at the rosters first before I go any further. Okay, so the Raiders offense, obviously they have Brock Bowers. I heard Amari Cooper just retired today. That's pretty crazy. Jacoby Myers, he's not bad, but I heard he wanted to be traded. Geno Smith, I honestly trust more than Drake May, even though Drake May had definitely some flashes last year. Genty should be a beast. Even Mostert as a backup is not bad at all. And then their offensive line is okay. Defensively, Max Crosby, Jermaine Pratt, that's not bad. Devin White, okay. Landon Roberts, former Steeler, and Jeremy Chin. Like I said, they've got a couple players on defense. Their defense is better than I thought it was. Offensively, let's look at the Patriots. Added Stephon Diggs. He should pretty much lead their receiving core. Demario Douglas, if he can stay healthy, should be pretty good. A lot of people took Travion Henderson in fantasy. I hope that pays off. I don't know why he's listed as the third running back here, because he was expected to take over as a starter. Some people thought he'd be the week one starter. Stevenson had a disappointing season last year, so we'll see. And Drake May had flashes of pretty good play last year. Some comeback either wins or competitive games where they almost won. I definitely think Drake May has the talent to be a good starting quarterback. I don't know if he's there yet, though. Honestly, Hunter Henry's still there. He's pretty good. So I'm gonna have to go with the Raiders in this one. I just think that talent-wise, I don't want to say that they have a coaching edge because I love Vrabel, but I think Pete Carroll is better at fixing things quickly and, has that kind of motivational style. So I just see the Raiders winning this one. All right, Panthers at Jaguars. This game is going to be in Jacksonville. Odds are pretty much even, plus 134 to minus 158. This is really a pick'em game. I'm leaning Panthers, honestly. I do want to look at the rosters first before I go any further. Offensively, I do like the Panthers quite a bit. I love Ted McMillan. I think he'll be a great receiver. I like Xavier Legette a lot last year. I was disappointed that he didn't have as good of a season as I would have hoped for. Obviously, they did trade away Adam Thielen. They cut Hunter Renfrow, and then they brought him back. So I guess he's listed as the third receiver here based on the depth chart. So that was interesting how they handled that. Didn't really love the Bryce Young pick as a rookie that obviously panned out that he did not live up to the hype. But last year I was really surprised, almost knocked out the Eagles. Had some really decent play, in my opinion. I think did they beat the Eagles? They might have. And then they were competitive against the Chiefs. I think they were supposed to beat the Chiefs. I think Mahomes had that crazy lucky run, like 60 yards with like less than a minute left where he didn't get pushed out of bounds. My point is the Panthers can compete, I think, with a lot of teams. I think they're extremely underrated. Their running back core is underrated. Hubbard, Rico Dowdle's not bad. Trevor Etienne looked great in the preseason. Some people even think Jimmy Horn Jr. will come on and be a solid receiver. So they're pretty set offensively. All right, defensively, let's see. Really nothing beyond J.C. Horn. So that's concerning. Hopefully their offense is pretty good. Let's look at the Jags. Obviously, they're Travis Hunter. I'm a big believer in him. I think he will do, I think he'll have a really strong NFL career. Brian Thomas Jr. went off last year, signed Tim Patrick. So the receiver core is not bad at all. Running back, Travis Etienne I think he was pretty good about 2 years ago. Since then, nothing much last year. It was disappointing. Tank Bigsby, I don't think has really done a ton. Trevor Lawrence, unfortunately, has not lived up to the number 1 overall pick, but I do believe they just gave him a massive contract. So honestly, I don't know. The Jags are the home team. I'm really high on Travis Hunter. The offensive line has some decent names, so they look like they'll be okay. Let's look at their defense. Eric Armstead, Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker. I don't love that. I'm going with Panthers in this one. I think the Panthers get this win. It's an upset, not a major upset, but I'm good. I'm going to go Panthers. All right, Giants and Commanders. Commanders are winning this one. I have it listed as a best bet. Minus 260 odds is not bad at all. No offense to Giants fans, but playing the Giants, especially in Washington, I think those are pretty decent odds because this game is a lock for me. We don't even need to look at the rosters, but we will. To be fair to the Giants, Slayton has been, when healthy, I guess he hasn't been as good as he was that one season. He hasn't, unfortunately, been able to keep up with it. But the good news is that Malik Neighbors is a beast on one of my fantasy teams. Wando Robinson, smaller guy, but I think is great receiver, a great possession receiver. I think he's underrated. Offensive line looks okay. Russ is definitely going to lose the starting job to Jackson Dart. And if he doesn't, I think Dart will have a pretty decent future, especially with Dayball. I think Russ is a serviceable quarterback, still great at the deep ball, excellent at the deep ball. He really had that down with Pickens, and so he'll definitely have that down with Malik Neighbors. Neighbors is in for a big year. Beyond that, there's nothing special about Russ, unfortunately. Defensively, I do like the defense, especially their defensive line. Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Nunez, Roches Sr., Brian Burns. That's scary. And then Abdul Carter coming off the bench. I didn't even realize that. So they're going to be able to rush the quarterback, that's for sure. Okereke, and see, Drew Phillips, not bad. Adebo, not bad. Javon Holland, Deontay Banks. Okay, so their defense is okay outside of their defensive line, but their defensive line is scary. Definitely good enough to get them some wins. I just don't think this game is going to lead to a win. Oh, and one more thing I want to say about the Giants is that running back Tracy and Devin Singletary, they're not bad. Scatterbo's going to take over as a starter. He's going to be a monster like he was in college. All right, looking at the Commanders, Terry McLaurin, obviously got that big contract, will be real solid. Debo, sounds like he's happy to be in Washington. Noah Brown, who had that crazy Hail Mary catch, looks like he'll continue to do the job for them. I like that they have Laramie Tunsil, Biotish, Cosney. Okay, they've got a couple good. Wiley, they've got a pretty solid offensive line, honestly. Zach Ertz, who I thought was done, clearly has good chemistry with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, super underrated. Not sure why they don't have the starting running back. Like this is Eckler. I don't love that, but it doesn't matter. Jaden Daniels is good enough. He can be their starting running back, I guess. He's good enough, though, honestly, that their offense will be just as good as it was last year. I see this being a top team in the NFC, mainly because of Jaden Daniels, Kinlaw, Von Miller, okay, Bobby Wagner. I guess he was already there. Him and Luvu killed it together last year. Lattimore, hopefully he takes his step forwards. Sanders still had a great rookie season. I think that will continue. I think he'll be a great player. So all in all, I do like the Commanders roster. Definitely like them in this game. This should be an easy win for them. All right, Titans at Broncos. Going with the Broncos on this one. They're heavy favorites. So the money line odds aren't great. You get just a little bit more than half your money back at the minus 430 odds. I would not recommend taking the Titans as an upset. I don't really see any scenario where they win this game. Not just because Cam Ward is a rookie And I think he'll be a decent quarterback. I think it really more so comes down to the discipline of the Sean Payton team. Bo Nix is a solid quarterback. They're really not the kind of team that's going to lose to bad teams, and they'll be competitive with good teams, but they're not, one of those teams that plays down to their competition. So Broncos should have this game pretty easily. Just kind of looking at the rosters here. So at receiver, Titans don't really have anyone besides Calvin Ridley. Tyler Lockett's pretty old at this point. But he does still, make some plays. Don't love the running back situation. Think Cam Ward will be good. I don't know about great. Let's see. Offensive line is decent. Seitler, J.C. Latham, Skoronski, Dan Moore Jr., tight end. So they've actually got a pretty good offensive line. So they might be better than people expect. But I don't think they're talented enough at the skilled positions to really make a big dent. I'm looking at their defense. I'm not seeing anything I love besides L'Jarius Sneed, so that's maybe Sweat. Simmons, maybe. Yeah, that's nothing special there. Switch over to the Broncos offense. Mario Mims, Short Franklin had a pretty good connection with Bo Nix. Sutton obviously is pretty solid. I think he just got a new contract. Evan Ingram, I thought was a good signing. I think they'll have a good year. If anyone's looking for fantasy value, is a fantasy pickup. Offensive line, I don't really know any of them besides McGlinchey, but they did seem to protect Bo Nix pretty well last year. I think Bo Nix was super impressive. As a rookie, way better than I thought he'd be. Super mature, perfect for Sean Payton offense. And I think this will be a good team for a long time with him at the helm. Offensively, this has been a pretty solid defense for years. Bonito and Singleton and Greenlaw, linebacker, didn't know that they got him. Hassertan, obviously. Hufanga, okay, that's a good pick up there. So they'll be a good team. This will be an easy win for them. So all Broncos here. All right, 49ers and Seahawks. This game is honestly a pick'em game for me. You can tell by the odds. -136 to +116. Regardless of who you pick, you're going to get a pretty similar return on your money. So really just whoever you want to lean with. I really want to look at the rosters before I make my pick. So initially, I do want to go with the upset, choosing the Seahawks. But let me just make sure I know who's where. So receiver, obviously the Niners got Juwan Jennings. Ayuk is, I don't know if he's on IR, but I know he's on at least PUP right now. I think he's out for at least like the first 4 weeks or something like that. Everybody's expecting a big jump from Ricky Pearsall this year. We'll see. They did get Sky Moore, so that should help their receiving core. George Kittle continues to be a beast. Not surprisingly, offensive line's always been pretty good, led by Trent Williams. Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. He does what he needs to do. I think if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, this should be a pretty decent team. And honestly, Rob will get this win solely based on McCaffrey. But let me keep looking here. So Bosa, Warner, Lenore. Don't know their safeties, honestly. I mean, kind of, but not really. So still have playmakers on defense, but definitely not the defense that they used to be. Let's look at the Seahawks. They did get Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Jackson Smith and Jigba has not lived up to the hype, unfortunately. He did have DK, and he's been in the shadow of him. So without DK there, I'm sure Kupp can lead him, but in Jigba immediately becomes the most athletic receiver on the team. He hasn't done anything close to his Ohio State days, so that's yet to be seen. I don't necessarily believe will happen, but I guess we'll see. Tight ends, I don't even know them, so I'm not going to say that I love that. Sam Darnold did have a great year last year. I think that has a lot to do with the Vikings head coach. I think he's an incredible offensive mind, but I'm not going to – I don't know if I see that in the Seahawks offense. So just based on that alone, Kenneth Walker, I've never loved either. Look down here. Byron Murphy, okay. Marcus Lawrence, didn't know that. Devin Witherspoon is a beast. Reap Warren is not bad at all. Kobe Bryant, okay. So the Seahawks, I think, are better than people expect. But just because I'm too uncertain about Sam Darnold and, his offensive coordinator and their scheme, I'm going to have to go with the 49ers here. I just trust Shanahan too much to not have a good plan for Brock Purdy. So I'm going to go with the Niners in this one. All right, Texans at Rams. Another game where the odds are pretty similar, plus 120 for the Texans, minus 142 for the Rams. So it's really a pick 'em game. You'll get similar money regardless of who you choose. The game is in Los Angeles. Probably leads to them being favored. I do want to kind of look through the teams before I make my pick. Like I said, Nick Chubb is going to be the starter. I do like that. Wow. What's his name is former Bengals running back. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. And that's going to bother me. But I think Chubb will do really solid. Nico Collins is a beast. Christian Kirk, he's not bad. Shoot, what's his name? Must be hurt then. Tank Dell must be hurt. So I don't like that. Dalton Schultz, offensive line. I don't know that they've done anything amazing over the last several years. So the offense should be okay. Will Anderson is a beast, obviously. Sheldon Rankins, Daniil Hunter's a beast. I like Al Shire, and I like 202, if that's how you say it. Derek Stanley Jr., maybe the best corner in the NFL. Lassiter, Petrie, Bullock, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Geez, this is a very solid defense, and I love the head coach too. So this is a pretty good team. The Rams here. Ante Adams, obviously, big signing. Don't love their tight ends. Have never loved their tight ends, honestly. Offensive line always does solid. McVay is smart about that in his offensive mind. Sorry, Tutu Atwell, Puka, the amazing rookie year. Last year couldn't stay healthy. We'll see what happens this year. Kyren Williams, Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's clutch. He's super underrated, in my opinion. You're never out of a game with Stafford as your quarterback. With a Fisk, Kobe Turner, Jared Bush, tight ends. Nothing special. Safety, nothing special. But they were a young defense last year and played pretty well. I really can't get a good read on this game. I do think that the running game is important. I think Chubb and Kyren Williams could both run well. What I don't love so much is that while the Rams defense is solid, I don't feel like it has as many playmakers as the Texans. And I feel like the Texans are going to want this game a little bit more. So I might change this pick before Sunday, before kickoff. But for now, I'm going to go with the Texans. Mainly just because of those defense players that I said make a big difference. I do think that Stafford is a better quarterback than CJ Stroud. So if it comes down to it, Stafford has a better chance of driving down the field. 2-minute drill, 3-minute drill, 4-minute drill, getting the win. But he might not even have the chance, He might not get the ball. Stroud might have a lead. Now I'm starting to talk myself out of it. I'm going to go with the Rams, actually. They're the more experienced team. And I think that matters, especially at the beginning of the season. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. All right, Lions at Packers. This is a pick'em game. I'd say 50% of people you talk to would be very confident in the Lions. 50% would be confident in the Packers. It is in Green Bay. But I think the Lions won both games last year. Packers receiving core is kind of injured. And I know they have that new receiver everybody's excited about. I think it's Matthew Golden. I'm going to go with the Lions in this one, though. I think that the Lions offensively are more stable, even though the Packers offense is great. Let's actually look at their teams real quick. All right, so Detroit has Jameis Williams, St. Brown, Cleve Raymond, but Isaac T-Slaw, if that's how you say his name. Then he killed the preseason. I think he could definitely unseat even Jameson Williams is the number 2 to St. Brown. He's a solid receiver, probably had the best preseason of any player in the NFL. Offensive line obviously is great. Laporta, great his rookie year, not so much last year. I think he'll bounce back. Jared Goff is a good enough distributor to get them the wins. Hasn't had the playoff success, unfortunately. At running back, they say that Gibbs is going to get even more touches this year, which is scary because he killed it last year in fantasy, especially when Montgomery went down. I see Montgomery still listed as a starter, but I think it's about time that, Gibbs gets at least 60% of the snaps, if not more. So that's going to help their offense out quite a bit. The defense was hurt a lot last year. If I remember correctly, at one point they had like 8 to 11 players that were on like IR, which is ridiculous. Aiden Hutchinson will be back. He'll be determined. He'll kill it, obviously. DJ Reader, Jack Campbell is solid. Anzalone is solid. So very solid linebackers there. Good pass rush. DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold. That's not bad at all. Brian Branch is amazing. Even Kirby Joseph is good. So they're very solid all around defensively. Good secondary. Packers offensively, Matthew Golden, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed. I love Jaden Reed. A lot of people love Matthew Golden. And Dobbs isn't bad at all. It's a great receiving core. And then, not listed here. What's blanking on now? Had a lot of success with Aaron Rodgers, but when he gets back from being injured, the receiving core will be even more dangerous. I do like Tucker Kraft, solid tight end. Even Musgrave isn't bad, honestly. Jordan Love, I think is a beast. I think is super underrated. We'll have a great year. I don't see them. I just think the Lions are a little bit better, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more talented. Defensively, Rashawn Gary, obviously the big news. Micah Parsons, he'll help their defense quite a bit. Quay Walker's pretty good. Adrian Cooper is not bad. They were excited about him in the draft not too long ago. Nixon and Hobbs, all right. Xavier McKinney, obviously, I think he got a big deal there. It was about a year ago now. But they did lose Jair Alexander, which he was a great player. I think a lot of fans miss him for like his comedy and his sense of humor. So this defense isn't bad, especially with the addition of Micah Parsons. I don't think it's enough to completely change their team. I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me there. So in regards to a great team like the Lions, I think the Lions are the second best team in the NFC behind the Eagles. I'm going to have to go with the Lions in this one. All right, final game of the week, Sunday Night Football, Ravens at Bills. If the model or Vegas or whoever had to choose a team, they would choose the Ravens. And the Ravens are who I'm going with for a couple of reasons. One, I'll never choose anyone over the Ravens in a game, except for the Chiefs in the playoffs. Just like I would never choose anyone over the Bills in a game, besides the Chiefs in the playoffs. They can beat the Chiefs in the regular season. Ravens seem to kind of struggle with that. But I'm talking about even NFC teams. I mean, the Bills and the Ravens blow out NFC teams. And the Ravens have been able to handle the Bills in the last couple of years. Obviously, the Bills got the best of them in the playoffs last year. No thanks to Mark Andrews. He should have caught that 2-point conversion. And I do think that he is a little bit overrated, in my opinion. The last time he was great tight end was like 4 years ago. And Isaiah Likely is really the man if he can stay healthy. So let's look through their offense real quick. Lamar, best fantasy quarterback in the league. Top 3 quarterback, just regular in the league, super clutch. I think super underrated in the sense that he can drive down the field with 2 minutes left and win you the game. Anybody that doesn't think that is crazy. I've never loved his receivers. Still don't love his receivers. They always hype it up like, oh, this is the year. He's got such great receivers. I don't see it at all. Zay Flowers, Bateman, can make plays, but nothing special. DeAndre Hopkins is old. His best weapon is Isaiah Likely. And Derrick Henry is obviously a monster. No debating that. Keaton Mitchell should be the second stringer for sure. Still have Ricard. I don't know how he's so old, but he's been a beast for a while, or at least I think he's old. I swear he's been around forever. And then obviously their offensive line is very solid. Stanley, Linderbaum, Falele, Rosen Gardner, all really good, which is why they're incredible at running. Lamar has tons of time to pass, then he'll scrim for a huge gain. Defensively, the Ravens are always solid. Mibike, let's see, Owe, Javo, Roquan Smith, and Trenton Simpson, Roquan's Beast, Con Van Noy. Okay. Looks like they run a 4-3. Nate Wiggins played pretty well last year. Marlon Humphrey is still very solid. Well, yeah, Jair Alexander as their, I guess, nickel corner. That's an amazing nickel corner to have. Even Awuzie is pretty decent as a backup corner. Malachi Starks, not bad. Kyle Hamilton's amazing. So I actually like this defense quite a bit. I think they have a huge edge over the Bills defense, I assume. But let me look through it real quick. At receiver, same problem with Josh Allen. He's never had great receivers. The only receiver he ever had was Diggs, obviously. And that didn't work out. Deion Dawkins holds the offensive line together. He has for years. Connor McGovern, not bad at all. James Cook is a good receiving running back and also running back. I think if he is good blocking, I don't think he's the kind that, he's not Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry. He's not going to create openings for himself for big plays. But if you give him a hole, he's quick. He'll get there. He'll make big plays. Shakir is their best receiver by far. Keon Coleman, I think, was a disappointment. I think Shakir will continue to be pretty much Josh Allen's most trusted receiver. Kincaid wasn't as good as his rookie year. So we'll see this year if he steps up. I can't believe Dawson Knox is still there. I feel like they've been on the edge of cutting him forever. So offensively, you really just have a lot of guys, a lot of Bs, a lot of B minuses, a lot of C pluses, and then Josh Allen. He's just amazing. On defense, at Oliver, still, they got Joey Bosa, Rousseau, Matt Milano, Bernard. Those are good linebackers. Teron Johnson, okay, that's not bad. Tre'Davious White, if he's healthy. Christian Benford, Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop. Okay. Oh, their secondary is still as good as it had been in years past, I would say, or at least close to that. And they've got a couple other pieces, especially. Oh, their linebackers together, their defensive line is good. Their defense is much better than what I give them credit for. I actually think their defense is more sure than their offense outside of Josh Allen. So the Bills are going to be a good team. They're going to be hard to stop, but they can't get past the Ravens. So I'm going with the Ravens on this one.